Hey everyone, we're back. This is our noon feature meet and greet of our adoptable horses. I'm Leandra. I'm the Kentucky Facility Director and Trainer here, and today we will be introducing you to NETTI'S Legacy by some popular demand. And we want to take a brief moment to assure everyone that we are obviously still operational despite the COVID crisis going on right now. We are abiding by our governor in Kentucky's precautions and per our governor's orders. We, as an agricultural asset, are still operational, clearly. And we have a very small team here anyway, but we're taking all the precautions. I'm sure you've heard a million times, washing our hands quite often, social distancing and making sure things are as clean and functional as they can be. But we are taking all the precautions we can, but these guys still need to get fed, and we're still riding them. We're still talking to people who want to adopt them and arranging for things as we can. Obviously, there are a lot of horses who are looking for homes and trying to find spaces in our program, so we're trying to get the horses who can be adopted into their homes so that we can take on some of the horses who are in need, especially those who have become in need because of closings due to the COVID situation. So if you are an approved adopter, certainly, and feel like you'd like to adopt now, these guys are looking for homes, and we've reduced a lot of the adoption fees just to make things easy for everyone. We want to reduce any financial burden, but they're looking, and we do need more spaces to help as many horses as possible. So without further ado, this is NETTI'S Legacy. She's a 2015 mare. She stands around 16 hands. She actually has been adopted once, and she was trained for polo for several months, but was returned because she had a growth spurt and then became too big to be an ideal polo pony. So we know that being bigger is ideal for a lot of people, and Nettie has been a very consistent part of our program. We've spent a lot of time with her at this point now and feel like we know her pretty well. She is super, super easy going on the ground. She was actually bottle fed as a baby. Her mom was lost in birth. So she had a lot of time just getting handled and getting loved on and getting used to people. So she is remarkably easy to work with on the ground, and has been a really consistent member. Even in her herded turnout, she's not super excitable by things, so she helps some of the new horses transition and get used to the routine. She's really sweet, and she likes to be near people. She likes to have her buddies in turnout, but she does appreciate the human contact too. But she's not really nosy in your pocket. Some people are really weary of horses who are more mouthy, and we certainly have a lot of the youngsters like to poke around. They're really curious, but can get mouthy just as sort of a young horse thing. But she's kind of quiet, has a really easygoing mentality in general. I'm gonna throw a halter on this gal, and we'll bring her out so you can get a better look. Ask questions. Does anybody have any questions while we're getting her ready? Go ahead and ask in the comments section. We have somebody who's keeping a tab on it so that we can answer them as they come in. She's about ready for a nap by the looks of it. So one of the neat things about Nettie that maybe some people weren't used to with thoroughbreds, and certainly even with the quantity that we get in, we don't have a lot who just stay barefoot. Sometimes while they're rehabbing, we'll have them barefoot, but she's been barefoot this whole time and has had really solid feet. You can see that she doesn't have any cracks or any parts that have started to rip off. She just has been really, really easy to maintain. She's sound in work and training, and has been really easy in that regard. We had her for a while at the beginning when we got her, just taking care of some skin conditions that she had, and we were really fortunate to work with Haggard Equine, who donated their skincare products to us to help her clear up her skin conditions, but that's really been the only thing we've had to deal with.
We have 2 questions, actually 3 now. So first one, would she be good for a child?
We discourage any of our horses from being adopted out for kids, especially without those who work without trainers. I think in general, our horses are really young. She's only 5, which is still very young for a horse. So kids are usually better off growing up with a horse who's already done the job for a long time. Most of our horses, if not all, need more mileage and more learning time. So we always advise that people set their kids up for success by putting them with a horse who's more of a schoolmaster type and kind of knows their job like the back of their hand, whereas a lot of these guys still need a lot of learning. We make some exceptions for people whose kids I guess could be a lot of different things, but who have worked with horses for a long time already and are working with a trainer who will be the primary rider until the horse is ready to work exclusively with the kid and kind of do that transition.
Do you think she'll grow more?
It's hard to say. I think that she'll probably be around 16 hands like she is. She's started to fill out. She's had different growth spurts where she's a little bit higher in the butt. She fills out in her width and has a bigger girth, and then sort of slims out and gets taller. So we've seen her go through a couple of these spurts. She actually looks like she's grown a little bit now, and so now is working on filling back out to fill her new height. But she's probably already above 16 hands, so I always think, to the top of my head would be 16.3. Usually if they're around my eye level like this, they're getting to 16.1, so I think she already has grown a bit. But I would estimate her to stay probably around this and then just kind of beef up a little bit.
And take her down for a walk and back. And then, what makes the trainers think a horse would be best at eventing or hunters or jumpers?
There are a couple of different things that feed into our recommendations that we'll put in their profiles, and 2 of those variables are the horse's conformation. So conformation, of course, isn't everything. Horses can be successful in career paths that they might not necessarily look like they'll be good at, but we try to consider things that might be weak points for them. So say a horse is really straight behind, maybe that's not the horse that you want to pick as a high-level jumper, but maybe low level would be fine. There wouldn't be as much compulsive horse or dressage or many other things. So 1, we're looking at conformation and trying to use the knowledge of what we know mechanically they might be best suited for. 2 is their disposition, and that'll be under saddle and on the ground. There are a lot of training factors that you can change as a horse matures. They have different experiences, they can learn to do different things, but we're really looking for that core disposition and considering what they physically and mentally can do and want to do. So we might and maybe under saddle they're really uphill and have a nice flowing big gait. So that might say to us, like, hey, this could be a really cool show jumper, or maybe they're a little more downhill, like to really just stretch out and maybe don't have as long a stride. Maybe that horse wants to do Western pleasure because they enjoy having a smaller gait and stretching down low. We're kind of just trying to figure out, again, what they can do and what they might want to do, and trying to figure out how they're going to be most successful, but we can be wrong too.
All right, got more questions. So earlier you mentioned skin ailments. What were they?
She had some rain rot, which is pretty common in this area because of the humidity. Even yesterday we had over 90% humidity, and that can happen really quickly for some of them, especially if they've had time outside already. But it's not really something to get too worried about. It's really, it can be challenging to remedy, but it also can be dealt with really quick. It's not going to affect them in the long term. But in her case, she had some rain rot along her back, and we didn't really feel comfortable putting a saddle on her until she could maintain that hair cover, just to be kind of kind to her. But as you can tell, she's growing a really nice coat now, and has gone to put that in her past.
Why don't we walk her in?
Yeah, let's bring her out.
Everyone classifies a rider's ability differently, so how do you rank beginner through advanced?
Well, we look at, so right here. So we really try to take into account the information that we have in the applications, but also we're looking at what's been done in the experience. So say you're totally right. Some people could say, like, I jump 2 foot, I'm a beginner, and then other people might think that's intermediate or whatnot. So kind of depends on what you're asking. Like, we can think about what the horse can do, because we know for our consideration, there are some horses who we are only recommending to do flat. The ones that we say are sort of low level capable for jumping would be 2 foot 2.6. Mid-level, you're talking about more 2.6, 3 foot to a meter, and then high level beyond that. That's kind of how we generally classify that. But really, again, as far as with the horses, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know for sure what they will and won't be able to do. I like to remind a lot of the adopters who I talk to, or prospective adopters, that a lot of what's going to impact what they can and can't do is the horse's fitness, things like nutrition, how you're dealing with maintenance. A horse who has had a lot of time in established groundwork, who is really fit for the job, has spent a lot of time conditioning, they might be able to do more than we predict. Whereas if you had a horse who doesn't have any limitations, and then you only ride them occasionally and don't really keep them super fit in between, it's like if I tried to run a marathon, I would probably injure myself and it wouldn't turn out well if I wasn't properly trained for it. So, even if they don't have limitations, then it doesn't mean they're invincible. So what we say really depends on a ton of things, but then if you're going back to rider classification, we're considering the things that we know, which is the horse's threshold. We really pride ourselves in being able to, for lack of better words, stress test the horses. Like, we will goof off on them and maybe flap around a little bit, and then put a little more trust in them than maybe we know or have established. So I might go around on the buckle, super loose rein, and just put them in a new situation and not know exactly how they're going to react, because we are trying to test them for you guys. So we by the time they're adoptable, really try to get to know the horse's threshold the most. So say I have a horse who's can deal with most things really well, but when they get stressed, they have a big reaction. So when we are talking with a prospective adopter, we're going to look at the application and what you've listed as experience. Do you have a trainer who you can work with? Sometimes we'll call the trainer, but we're going to discuss with you, hey, here's what this horse's threshold is. Here's what they mentally and physically can do and want to do. Is this going to be right for your situation? So we don't have any rigid lines, because obviously people come from all different backgrounds. We're not just looking at your show record or how high you've jumped. That doesn't matter as much to us as are you willing to deal with X, Y, and Z? Because most of our horses are green and young, and so they all have different capacities and starting points and points where we think they'll project to. So I know this is a really long-winded way to answer your question, but there just aren't super rigid guidelines to it. We work really, really hard to make sure that our horses are appropriately matched, especially because the horse who they are here might not be the horse they are when they go somewhere else. Like, we understand that they react differently in different environments, and we can't predict always exactly how they're going to be. So we want to make sure, can you handle this horse on its worst day? That's really what you should be thinking about, because if you can't handle that, then you're not going to get the best day all the time. I should let other questions be answered, I guess. Anything else?
Do the horses typically arrive with shoes or without?
It depends on what they've been doing. So some horses have the privilege of having a lot of letdown time before they come to us. Maybe they've been rehabbing from an injury before they ever come to us, and in those cases sometimes they're barefoot. We usually ask that horses come with a set of shoes. It really helps us to be able to jumpstart our process in working with them rather than wait for our farrier to come. We're super lucky to have our farrier here every week, but if a horse is used to just being on grass, if they've been turned out and then they're walking around all our stony pathways, we don't want to have to start out in our process with them by having them come back from a sole bruise or whatnot. If they're coming from the track, then they will have shoes, aluminum shoes with grabs a lot of the times. It's kind of like cleats, like soccer cleats. So they will adjust them from that to the steel shoes when we can. But if they come from the track, they usually have shoes on. But sometimes just depending on their situation, they might not. But most of them are used to having shoes on rather than starting barefoot. Barefoot is something that sometimes they'll have to transition to over a period of time to grow sole depth and everything.
Let's just do a quick recap on her.
Yeah.
Who's Nettie looking for?
Nettie is a horse who retired without any injuries in the track. She had 15 starts. She's a 2015 mare, stands around 16 hands, but when we were looking at her earlier, we were saying, she might already be taller than that.
She's on our website?
She is on our website, horsedoctor.com. If you look at our horses, you'll see her under the Kentucky facility. She, because she retired without any injuries and has shown prospect in a lot of different areas, we have left it kind of open-ended. So, she could be a very capable Western pleasure mount. She has been ridden in Western tack. She's been ridden in English tack a lot. She's a horse who needs a little bit more of an experienced rider because she still has a little bit more of a go button to her. We've worked a lot with her on just being as relaxed as she is on the ground under saddle, but that's one of the reasons why we wouldn't recommend her for maybe a more novice rider. But for somebody who doesn't mind a little bit more of a forward ride and has, I always go back to sense of humor and patience under saddle. Those are the two best tools you can have with basically any horse, but especially young horses. She's one who could really be a blast. I actually took her to a hunter pace, last August? And I was dressed up in fairy wings, and she had a unicorn horn tied to her bridle and had paint and everything on her. So she definitely has a sense of humor and is game for a lot of different things. She cleared every obstacle I've pointed her at, and a lot of that was new for her. Did really well in a group, was happy to be the leader, was happy to be at the back. So she's super versatile, but again, we really want to match horses with people who are capable of handling them on, what could be their worst day, and she could definitely intimidate somebody who didn't appreciate a more forward ride, and we want to make sure that she goes to somewhere where she can really be successful. So you guys say hi too? You give her kisses? You want to give kisses? That's so nice. She likes dogs. She's very dog proof at this point. Rambo takes his job really seriously. So every horse who comes through here has been Rambo tested. Whether or not they like it, but Nettie doesn't mind it at all.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We'd love to have people let us know who they want to see tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna try to continue to do this and feature as many horses as we can. Oh, that's fun. She's like, ooh, bunker. Let's go in the bunker. And back to you, Day.
And at 1 o'clock, what are we doing today?
At 1 o'clock, we will be giving you a tour of our barn. We will try to do these virtual tours of the barn every week so that everybody who's stuck at home can still follow along with us and see the property, especially now that we've blossomed into the green part of the year. And again, any horses that you want to see who are online, we will try to feature as many as we can. But please make sure you stay tuned in or jump back on at 1 o'clock. We'll be showing you around, and we've got a little bit of a surprise for you in the indoor. You'll see plenty more horses. So I hope everyone's doing well. Nettie certainly is looking for the right home to go to, so anybody who's interested, let us know. If you are not already an approved adopter, it's best to fill out the application ASAP, because we don't want you to find the horse that you definitely want to get, go to apply, and then by the time you're approved, the horse is gone. So just fill out the application. It's just a $15 fee for processing, and it's valid for 2 years. So you're not in a rush to find the right horse, and we don't want you to miss out on the right one for you. So fill out that application. We have so many horses looking for amazing homes, and the more horses who we help, then the more we can bring in and hopefully help even more. So really, if you adopt a horse from us, you're helping 2 of them. You're helping the one you bring home, and you're helping the one who gets its stall next to can now receive the care of our program. So we love our adopters. We love hearing any of your success stories. So I think that's Nettie's too busy now, but she would love to find somebody else to graze with. So we'll see you at 1.